I was at this concert from my school and I was with this guy and we were getting along really well. I was having a good chat with him. I had met him a few days ago and we'd clicked really well, and tonight we were together and I asked him this question. I said, I feel like you're an entrepreneur. And for some backstory, that's something that I really cared about and I was really interested in, and I was learning about a lot to do with entrepreneurship at the time. And he's like, yeah, I'm starting this business, this is my plan. And we ended up having a really fucking awesome chat about entrepreneurship. And the interesting thing about that was that after we had had that one sentence, yeah, we were getting along before, but I just felt super close to him that whole night. We were laughing for the rest of the night. And I genuinely still remember that night as something that was a really amazing moment for me. And it was all because I just asked this guy if he was an entrepreneur. And by the end of this video, I'm gonna make sure that you know how to make friends who actually understand you. And here's some photos with my friends. Like, I genuinely get along with my friends, and that's why I want to teach you, because it's amazing once you have it. I'm gonna be uploading tons of value on my Instagram, which I don't really use a lot yet, but I'm gonna start posting soon. There will be value that I put on there that I haven't put on my YouTube, things that can genuinely really help you that I don't put on my YouTube. So make sure you go follow that. And you can message me if you really want. Whatever your problems is, I'll give you my personal help. But I was speaking to this guy this one time. This was a different guy, but I literally used the same line. We were boxing together, I'd invited him. And so we were doing something that we both really enjoyed and we were clicking really well, having a great chat. And I said the same phrase, I feel like you're an entrepreneur. And two different guys, but I had the exact same experience, because after he said that, we had such an awesome chat about his business plans. And the thing that I was starting to learn was that when you have something in common with other people and you like openly bring it up and they like say, oh yeah, I like that too, you end up clicking really well and you end up really enjoying each other's company. I think we all know those times where we're talking to somebody but they just seem a bit fucking boring and you feel like they don't really get you. It's almost like as soon as you realize both of you guys have something in common, that feeling goes away immediately. But I get it. It might still be hard for you to do that. It might still be hard for you to even talk to people and get to the point where you can actually start speaking and asking these questions of like what other people are interested in. And so something that really helped me before was this one time I was in the sauna and one of my really good friends, he had invited me, and I got there and they'd invited an extra guy. And it was my first time meeting this person. And I introduced myself and everything. We hadn't really clicked at this point. We were just having some boring ass small talk. Couldn't really tell that he got me or anything. I wasn't clicking well. And my friend, since I'd gone out the night before and had like a really fun night, my friend said to me, yo, tell us about your night. And I told this story. The connection I felt with these guys afterwards, even with my already close friends, had quadrupled or something crazy. I felt so much more connected to them because I had started telling this story that I found interesting. Like, I genuinely just thought that this was interesting and I liked telling the story. I was genuinely speaking about what I wanted to speak about. And after I did that, this guy complimented me. He was like, damn, I really like that story. He really respected it. The whole, like the content of the story, he said, oh yeah, I have that same experience. Like, oh bro, I wish that I could do that. And what ended up happening from me telling this story about something that had gone on my night out, what ended up happening was he became so much more interested in me. For the rest of the day, we completely clicked and got along really well together. I learned that when I talk about myself and I tell stories about what I'm interested in, not only does it take so much pressure off the conversation, off me trying to hold like a nice long conversation, it makes it 10 times more interesting. It's no longer like you're interviewing someone, oh, and what's your job and where you live and oh yeah, where are you born? Like, it's fucking shit when you have to ask somebody questions and questions. It feels like a fucking interview. But when somebody's telling a story, it's so much more interesting. When you're telling a story, people are engaged and they get to know you properly without you having to ask a million fucking boring questions. And the biggest benefit about all of this was when I didn't really know what to say, I just started a new story. Because I didn't tell one story, I told like 3 or 4. And every time I would finish my story, we'd have some conversation and we'd all go silent for a bit. I didn't really know what to say. And so I ended up just segueing into another story. And another. And this made it super easy for me to have a really good time with these guys and to get to know them all better and for them to get to know me better. Because we all just started taking turns telling stories. And it takes so much fucking pressure off myself, off everybody, when You don't have to like hold a conversation with tons of questions. You can just start speaking about something that you're genuinely interested in. I was at the beach with my friends, two of my like pretty good friends, and we got there. I was greeting them. I was like saying it's really nice to see them. We were genuinely having like a pretty fun time at the beach. And I asked them a bunch of questions. We were having a chat. But something I noticed about when I was with these guys, I was comfortable around them. And so I would start telling jokes a lot. And the thing is, I don't normally tell this many jokes. Like every 5 seconds I was making a joke. And they were responding really well. I actually genuinely loved that day so much. I still remember it. That was such an awesome time with those two guys. And I think it comes down to the reason that I just kept telling so many jokes. Literally every like 5 seconds, if you set a timer for 5 seconds, it would align with how often I was telling a joke. And so we were there on the beach, laughing our asses off, having an amazing time. And after, I still remember that day. Like genuinely, that was a great experience for me. And I think it all comes down to the comfort that I had to tell more jokes. Because I was comfortable with these guys, they were good friends. But what if we just could tell more jokes even if we weren't comfortable around these people? And you can do that. Once I learned that lesson, it was easier to get along with more people because I learned that it's not really so much about how funny you are. It's more about how often you try and tell a joke and how confidently you tell a joke. And so when I just started randomly telling jokes with literally like everybody, because there was a long period of like 3 months where I wouldn't make a joke to anybody who wasn't my really close friend because I was getting a lot of shit for, not being funny. People were saying like, oh, you're not even a funny guy, giving me a hard time about it. And so I wouldn't make any jokes and I wouldn't end up being funny. So this taught me that the more often you tell jokes, the more people are going to find you funny. And that it has nothing to do with how funny you really think you are. This one time, I was walking with this guy to one of my classes. It was the first time I'd met him and I didn't really know much about him. And I was in like a really awkward phase where I just hadn't been going out socially at all. I was just working hard on like my goals and really like kind of being a bit isolated. But I was walking to class and we started to go silent, and I had this really big fear of silence happening. But I was just drifting. This one time I just drifted off and I was looking out to the garden because it was a really nice day. I was just genuinely looking into the sun and I completely zoned out. And when I came back to the present moment, I realized we'd been walking for like 15-20 seconds, not really saying anything. But that was a complete mind shift for me because all this time I thought that silence was the worst thing in the world. And I had just completely missed, completely not noticed that we'd just gone silent for so long. And the thing is, I was completely fine with it this time. For some weird reason, this one time, after so long of struggling with being in having a silence when walking with somebody, I didn't care. And we kept walking, and after about 2 seconds, I was so comfortable being around this guy that I just asked him a new question, and we weren't even having silence anymore, and we ended up having a really nice conversation. We went silent one more time, but I was still so comfortable, and we started this conversation again. We continued speaking, and I really liked meeting that guy that time. And this taught me that it's completely okay to be silent around other people. There's this guy that I know, and he really struggles with getting closer to more people. He really struggles with being comfortable around other people, and he has really strong social anxiety. And I was speaking to him and I said, how'd you overcome that? He said it was really simple. One day I decided to write down on a piece of paper that I wanted to be more social. So he would go out for runs every week, 3 times. He was doing that consistently for months. So he said, now every time I run past somebody, on this first week I'm gonna aim to just smile and look them in the eyes. And he said, I've struggled so much to even do it for the first time. But once, after about a day, on my second time I went running, I finally smiled and did this. And after it, I had finally done this once, I started getting crazy momentum. And I started smiling and looking everybody in the eye every single time I ran past somebody. And in week 2, his goal was to, every time he ran past somebody, say hi, just hi. And at first, he wouldn't even do this. But eventually, after a day or 2, he started saying hi more and more often. And then by week 3, now he had to say, hey, how are you, to every single person he ran past. And at first, this was really difficult for him. And he finally started doing this consistently. And he said to me, at first, it would have been completely delusional for me to say, hey, how are you, to every single person I ran past. But I was suddenly doing it with ease. And he said it all came down to me starting at such a small, like at such a low level. He said it even felt below his level for him to just smile at people. But even then, he was still struggling a little bit. But he had set the bar low enough that he could consistently do it. And when he consistently started smiling at people, he got comfortable with them and he was able to build on his progress so much. And he became so much more sociable. Because the thing I didn't tell you about this guy is he used to be awkward. I knew him. And the first time I met him, I was like, hey, what's your name? He was like stuttering a fuck ton. He couldn't even tell me his name properly. And I'd had another conversation with him. And when we were talking about like how he became more social, because I noticed it. And he was easily telling me all of this information about how he had become more social. He was actually holding a good conversation with me. And all that changed because he put in the effort and started small. But he said one specific thing. For 3 months he tried to do this and he made no progress. And the day after, he wrote down on a piece of paper that he wanted to be more social and his 3-week plan. The day he wrote it, 2 days later was the first day he smiled at somebody. 1 week later was when he was starting to say hi to every single person he ran past. 2 weeks later was the start of when he was starting to say, hey, how are you, to every single person he ran past. And after those 3 weeks, he said, I suddenly started finding it really easy to talk to people in my class. I started raising my hand more often. He started being able to talk to the teachers and his social anxiety went away. And this is the thing that I recommend for you to do. The only reason I haven't done it is because I accidentally did it when I was younger in a slightly different way. But if I did it like this, I would have made way faster progress. So I really recommend you follow his advice. But if you still need help with this or you can't figure out where to go or you're just finding this difficult, feel free to message me on Instagram. I'll give you my personal help. To make friends who actually get you, you have to be able to conversate with people well. Talk about yourself, you tell stories, and it's way easier to hold a conversation. You make a lot of jokes and people really enjoy your company and you love spending time with other people. And you're okay with silence, and so it's easy to continue conversations and to never get stressed out and fuck everything up. Then, if that's still hard for you to make friends, you use this method. You start talking to more people, you slowly build up. And if you do both of those things, you'll be able to meet way more people. It's like boxing, you're jabbing, and you're like getting into better conversations. You need a fucking right hook to knock the opponent out. The right hook for you to finally become social. You need a hobby. Because remember when I said I was talking to this guy and I was like, I feel like you're an entrepreneur. I said that phrase. I had my fucking right hook. It was entrepreneurship. I was like, bop, entrepreneurship. And you need to find what this is for you, because how are you going to find people who genuinely understand you and get along with you if you don't understand you and get along with you? If you don't have good hobbies. It became really easy for me to meet friends when I started going to the gym, because this one day I walked in there and there was this guy and I just said, hey, what's up, bro? What are you working on today? And he was like, oh, I'm just doing some chest and a bit of back. And I had an amazing conversation with this guy because I knew fucking like every single muscle fiber in the chest. Like I was a bit of a nerd about going to the gym and I just knew shit about it. And it was really fun for me to talk about gym with this guy. And this was my right hook. Back at that time, my right hook was going to the gym. Because anybody who I met there had something so massively in common with me. Because I was going to the gym every single day. I still love working out. And it still works really well for me when I meet people at the gym. And so what I recommend for you is, you might like going to the gym. You might like a martial art. Sign up for that sports class because it will change your life. The one thing I will say about all this though, if you want to meet friends who actually get you, you can't expect them to be perfect. This one time I was explaining to my friend, he was like, oh, but he's not an entrepreneur. I was like, who the fuck cares? He's good at all this other stuff. He's such a warm person to be around. I fucking love his company. And he was like, oh, that makes sense. And I explained to him, you don't need your friends to be perfect and exactly like you. Maybe you just only need one thing that you guys really get along with, one common interest you really share. So don't cut people off just because they're not exactly like you. But hopefully this video gave you a chance to meet a bunch more people and genuinely make some really good friends. Follow my Instagram, Finnaman. I'll upload more information there. Message me if you want. Have a great day, brother.